let's go ahead and kick things off. Again, I think everybody is in the right spot based upon what I'm hearing. I'm just really pleased and excited to have three colleagues from PM-ProLearn. I'm going to do the formal introduction here in a little bit. Um, but there's a lot to be said for collaboration. And so again, I'm just really excited to have PM-ProLearn share their expertise about certifications. And for me, myself, I graduated with my MBA, and after that, I was looking for something else that was next. And getting my change management certification really helped elevate my career. Uh, I'll save you all the gory details, but let's dive in here. All right, so a couple of tips to enhance your webinar experience. You know, be mindful, as possible. So if you're not talking, I'm of the mind that, let's make this interactive. So if you have a question or if you have a comment as we have time, please feel free to share. Also, the chat's available. Please use the chat. So this isn't just about us sharing our perspectives. We want to hear from you all as well. So a couple other ideas here to really enhance your experience. Number one, if you're able to take those dreaded cell phones and put them at least 6 to 10 feet away. That way you're not tempted to look at it. Obviously, if you have an emergency or maybe you're about to go into labor or your spouse is about to go into labor, obviously you need your phone for that. So, use judgment there. If you're able to close the doors, maybe set some boundaries if you're able to. But if not, just be mindful that we will be recording this session and we will make it available to everybody afterwards as well. And then also, if you have other browsers, other tabs up in your browser, go ahead and make sure that you close those, minimize those, so that you're not getting, especially LinkedIn, where you say, oh, somebody tagged me, and now it goes from 0 to 1, and now you're watching your tags blow up. Just close that down, and that way you can stay focused on all the great content I'm going to share with you today. So, and if you stay till the end, both the PM-ProLearn team and myself, we've got a little extra for you. So again, just excited to have you all. And if you could, I'm hearing a little background noise. If you could just be mindful and mute yourselves so that we're not distracting others, and I'm not hearing it anymore. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. All right. So again, heard some comments right before we started, saw some comments in the chat, but just want to confirm, make sure that you're in the right place. So if you want to really discover the power of certifications, we're going to be talking about funding streams for your chosen certification program. We're going to compare the costs of the training and certification across a variety of professions. And then we can also discuss whether certifications are required or desired in your career field. And then from a networking perspective, we're going to help you create positive beliefs about networking. At least I start to identify those, and I've got plenty more on that after the webinar if you're interested in how to reframe those beliefs. And then one of the biggies is preventing one and done discussions. We're going to focus in on there. And then now that we're all mostly online networking, virtual networking, how to really optimize and gain comfort from that. So that's what we're going to be going through today. And so let's get to it. And so I'd really like to introduce to you the three colleagues. We're going to start off with Tim Dahlhaus. He's the CEO of PM-ProLearn, and he's going to share his story about the power of his certification. We're going to follow up after my speaking is going to be Josh Atkinson. I've known Josh for a few years now, and it's just a tribute to our networking, our staying connected, and that's how we're able to collaborate now. In fact, it was Josh that introduced me to Ian. Looking forward to what Ian has to say, and then it's through that discussion that's bringing us all here today. So just real quick nugget from networking is you never know where things are going to go. So that's why it's always beneficial to groom and really strengthen and grow those relationships. And so with that, I'd like to introduce and turn it over to Tim Dahlhaus. Tim?
There, you're muted, Tim. Tim, you're muted.
So that was an example of what not to do in your virtual networking is don't talk when the mute's on. So anyway, I was thanking Gus for setting this up and for literally networking with us in order to put on a great webinar for you guys. So as Gus mentioned, I'm the CEO of PM-ProLearn, project manager training company, but obviously I wasn't always doing that. It's a company I founded and built from my kitchen table with the laptop computer into, what it is today, training about 150 to 200 students a month, 9 instructors, 5 support staff. And that's kind of the end state of where I'm at with because of my certification, to grow a company that's doing very well. But I wanted to share way back before I didn't have a certification and what that looked like real quickly. So Ian, did you want me to jump right in there to my story?
Sure, that's good.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know, there another slide coming up?
Yes, there's one right behind it.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what I basically want to talk to. I'm just going to give everybody a story of, how certification really kind of changed my career path and in a very positive way, and my opportunities when I really didn't know what I was going to do. So just going back to a point in my life, a big transition point was retiring from the Marine Corps. I spent 24 years in the Marine Corps and retired in 2009. So I've been out for 11 years now. And I wasn't certified in anything while I was, in the military. Yeah, I had some military certifications, but nothing, civilian of civilian value. But when I retired from the Marines, I had gone through a lot of education and I had an MBA degree at the time I retired. And I thought, hey, I've got 24 years in the Marines. I was an E9, so I'd made it as high as I could go in the enlisted ranks. I had a lot of experience doing various things. I was an avionics chief. I was a recruiter. I worked at headquarters Marine Corps and manpower for a couple of years. So I've done a lot of different things. And I thought with an MBA and all that cool experience, I'm bound to be very valuable to civilian employers. And somebody's going to
wait for you, Bobby.
Well, I'm sorry, Tim. I'm going to go ahead and mute the audience here real quick.
Okay, sure. Yes, a bunch of background noise, yeah.
We're actually fumbling around trying to find where I muted. So let me just announce, if you all could please mute your lines, that would be great. All right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Gus. So when I retired from the Marines and I had this MBA degree and all this experience, I thought that I would have a relatively easy time transitioning into a good paying civilian job. In 2009, I found out that simply wasn't the case. I didn't have a problem really getting a job, but the salary just was not where it needed to be to make up what I had lost in my active duty Marine Corps paycheck. I was a director of workforce development and military programs at a community college, which sounds like a really important title, but the pay was not there. Working for a community college and, at a state level is just not that great paying job. So I fumbled around for about 2 years, from 2009 to 2011, trying to figure out how am I going to get, my military experience to make sense to the civilian world and really brand myself in something and get, a good career going. And in 2011, through some networking, as Gus is going to talk about, but through sheer networking and staying connected with people, I was offered a job at a company called CGI Federal because of some specific Marine Corps knowledge I had. The company was doing a contract for the Marines and they needed my knowledge. So when they brought me on board because of my subject matter expertise, they said, hey, Tim, we think that you could become a project manager for us, but you need to get the PMP certification. So right there, they made it plain to me that the certification was what was standing between me and a great career in project management. So I started to pursue that, did training and did everything that was required to get it, and I got the PM-P certification. So CGI Federal moved me into a project manager job, software development. So right there, I want you to, see what happened. A retired Marine with no software development experience whatsoever, 2 years later is now managing a software development team at a company on a multi-million-dollar project. So how in the world did that happen? Well, the PM-P is what unlocked that because I got that certification. After I had worked there for a while, I actually moved from there over into a government job at the Food and Drug Administration. And the FDA hired me to work in their Office of New Animal Drug Evaluation, which my job was to work with 10 pharmaceutical companies to shepherd their new applications for drugs through the approval process. And there I'm working on projects that have veterinarians and microbiologists and people with a lot more degrees and experience than I had, but I was managing those projects. So I always tell everybody that story and say, how in the world is a retired Marine avionics chief, end up running programs at the Food and projects at the Food and Drug Administration with, people with scientific degrees and veterinarians. The PM-P is what unlocked that for me and moved me there. So after I worked there for a while, I actually went back into, I won't go into the whole thing, but I went back into software development at a couple of other companies before I started PM-ProLearn. I started PM-ProLearn because people kept asking me, Tim, how in the world did you do that? How did you get a job at the Food and Drug Administration? Because we know you. You're just a retired Marine avionics guy fixing airplanes. And I started to tell people the power of the certification, the PM-P. And they asked me to help them, and I started mentoring people, and it turned into a business. And that's where PM-ProLearn came from. But going back to the power certifications, it took me from a $60,000 a year job at a community college to 5 years later, when I finished my very last project before I went full time with my company, making $123,000 a year. So my salary doubled in 5 years because of the certification. So as you look at the slide there, you can read what those things are, but I basically talked through how that certification created a brand for me and gave me credibility in some place like the Food and Drug Administration, where I would never have that without it. And it helped the employers understand what value my Marine Corps experience, all that 24 years, could bring to them. And it effectively communicated my value rather than just a list of experiential entries on a resume. And obviously it opened doors of opportunity for me that never would have been there without the PM-P certification. And as I mentioned, it certainly increased my salary and earning potential over those 5 years that I was managing projects. Ended up starting my own business and, obviously went a different direction with it, but it's still, the PM-P certification is what enabled me to create a business around that certification. And so I just, everybody that talks to me, I say, look, the PM-P did it for me. Now, it might be PM-P for me, it might be another certification for you, but whatever your career field is, certifications are a game changer. And I hope my short story here about my last 11 years of my life is an illustration of that. Now, obviously results vary for some people, but that is a true story. And I've helped so many other people understand that and get on the same track. And there's tons of people that could say, yeah, I had something like that happen to me in my life as well. So I don't want to take a whole lot more time there. How am I doing on time hacking? Am I good?
Pretty good. Yeah, I've got 2 questions for you that I'm going to capture and bring to you at the very end, unless you wanted to answer one of them right now. It's actually kind of pertinent. It says, do you recommend teaching as an adjunct faculty at a college or university in addition to certifications?
Well, yeah, I didn't go in depth into my story, but part of what I did at the community college, I was in a director position, but I also taught adjunct business courses there, and I actually became adjunct faculty at 3 universities, over that time, and taught business and ethics courses, and that positioned me to obviously start a training company, right? Because I got a certification, I know how to train, I put the 2 things together and created a company around it. So I think it depends on what you're planning to do, right? Teaching is its own kind of industry and skill set. I don't think teaching necessarily prepares you to go manage projects or go do specific skills in the real world, but it can build credibility in the education environment if you're going to go into training.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So
And-
let me throw one more thing, and I meant to cover this and I forgot, but now it popped into my head. I told this story yesterday on a webinar. Back in 2015, I was teaching a project manager class. This is part-time. This is before I started PM-ProLearn, but I was teaching a project manager class at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. There were 2 Marines in my class. One of them was a chief warrant officer, and another one was a master sergeant. So the chief warrant officer outranks the master sergeant, and these 2 guys knew each other. And the master sergeant actually worked for the chief warrant officer when they were active duty in the Marines. They both took my P&P course. The master sergeant pursued it after the class. He did his study. He went and got the P&P. Chief warrant officer, although he did the class, he did not pursue the certification and he didn't get it. Both of those individuals retired around the same time. They both ended up applying for the very same job in project management at a company near Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. The master sergeant got the job. The chief warrant officer did not, right? Because of the P&P. It was a certification that set him apart. Now, fast forward about 6 months, and the master sergeant is now not only project manager at the company, but also a hiring manager for his project. So he goes through his HR department and posts jobs out there, and guess who applies for a job on his team? The chief warrant officer. He applied for a job. The master sergeant hired him. Now the master sergeant who used to work for the chief warrant officer, those roles are reversed. And the chief warrant officer is now working for the master sergeant at the civilian company because of the P&P. So the great end of that story, though, is the chief warrant officer saw, hey, how valuable this thing is, and he started pursuing it. And he's a P&P today, and he's a project manager in his own right, you know, at a company making good money with a very fulfilling job. So a very fulfilling career. So, you know, that's another thing certifications can do for you. It just is a total game changer in most industries.
Great. And Ian, I think I heard you mention that there might have been another question for Tim as well. We're doing great on time.
Okay, yeah. So actually, one just came in. I think you answered the other question in that last little bit. So, but the second and third question just came in and said, would you still go after IT project manager jobs now with a PMP, or is the ACP the necessary route today?
So, you know, that's a great question. I think that's an argument, right? I mean, different people would argue that different ways. I think what I would tell you is to look at job postings and descriptions of jobs that you're interested in. Go look at the company that you're interested in, and or the particular field, and look at what the jobs are asking for. If the job postings, if the employers where you're looking are asking for the PMP as a required thing, obviously you need to go for that. If they're not asking for that, but they're asking for the ACP as a required thing, go for that. They're both valuable certifications, but it's really what does the employer want, right? So I couldn't give you a one size fits all answer to that. It really depends on what is the employer looking for. I can tell you that PMP and ACP are not opposing certifications, right? It's not a one or the other thing. The PMP is how do you manage projects overall, okay? It covers everything about managing a project. ACP is more of how do you manage a particular type of project in particular environments that we call adaptive projects. So you could look at the ACP as maybe a subset of the PMP knowledge where you specialize in a certain type of adaptive project. So they're both very valuable. I do not have the ACP, but I have another Agile certification called the ICP, because the company, that's an example. The company I was working for at the time that I got it was Accenture Federal Services. And Accenture Federal Services loved the ICP certification. And so I said, hey, if I'm going to do good in this company, that's the one I want to go for. And so I did. I went and got the ICP because at the time, that was what my company valued. So they're both very valuable, but I would say look at what employers are looking for.
Great. And Gus, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Michael put this one out there, and just because I don't know if everybody knows it. I'm going to do a shameless plug for you, Tim. Tim's actually literally the person that wrote the book on how to use your military experience as you transition from the military to the civilian sector. That's actually the name of the title, not quite that long. But the question was from Michael. It said, how hard is it to equate what we do in the Marine Corps as projects to the required hours to get the certification? So you're definitely the person to answer that one.
Yeah, thank you. So I did write a book about that. It's about 40 or 50 pages long, ebook, but I wrote it because I got this question so many times, from friends that how in the world did you, convince the Project Management Institute that you had this project experience? So got to do it really quickly, but in a nutshell, mission accomplishment is something you're very familiar with in the military. And we use a little slogan that mission accomplishment equals project management. They're both basically the same skill sets, because a project, listen to this, is any temporary endeavor to produce a unique outcome. Any temporary endeavor to produce a unique outcome. Isn't that a mission? Missions are temporary. They start and they stop when the mission's complete, right? So that's a project right there. And don't missions achieve a specific outcome? We go do a mission to take the hill, for example, right? We do missions to achieve something that some commander said we want to achieve this. So mission accomplishment uses the exact same skill set. So to translate your military experience, you need to look at your military experience from that regard. Go back and say, what missions did I accomplish? Where can I identify specific goals that I was given to achieve? Like, prepare 200 people for deployment. That's a project right there. And you've probably been involved in something like that before. Improve a process at our unit to achieve a 10% reduction in repair cycle time. So process improvements are projects, all sorts of them, right? So go back to your military experience and say, what were my goals that I was given over my career to achieve? When did I start working on and when did I finish? Because now you got a project. And then you just have to talk about the parts of a project. What did you do to initiate it, plan it, execute it, monitor and control it is the fourth thing. And the fifth thing is close it. So those are the 5 parts of a project: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing. So you probably did all that stuff in the military, and that's really how you have to look at it. But we'll be glad to, our community, PM-Pro community, has mentors that can sit down with you one-on-one, PM-Pro mentors, and work with you through your specific experience and help you do that. You can always read my ebook and be glad to help you guys out.
Fantastic. Tim, anything else you wanted to highlight?
I could talk all day, but I know we have time, so I wanted to hit those highlights and hopefully just shine a light on some things that certifications are hard to get. Certifications are hard to get, most of them, if they're of any value. A valuable certification is not easy, but once you get it, it's a game changer, and you're like, why didn't I do this before? I wasted 2 years of my life after the Marine Corps before I got the certification, fumbling around trying to figure out how to communicate value to employers. Certification is what did it for me. So hopefully that, my story will help you dedicate yourself to pursuing one.
Great.
Thank you, Gus.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So now I'm just going to talk to you briefly about, strengthening and expanding your network. And so the framework that I use has five components. I'm just going to breathe on the top 3 here, or the 3 that you see here. So, creating those positive networking beliefs, how to strengthen your existing network, and then also how to expand your network. And so before that, I think it's important to hear my story. So it was actually about 5 years ago now where I actually hated networking. And you may be wondering, well, what does that have to do with meat and the meat thermometer? Well, there's an old SCTV skit or Saturday Night Live, I can't remember which, where it was Billy Crystal and another gentleman. They were police guards, and they'd roam the jail cells at night, one-upping each other. Oh, I hate it when that happens. And so one of their stories was, I hate it when I take a meat thermometer and jam it in my ear and take a sledge and pound it and pound it and pound it. That was me when it came to networking. I actually absolutely despised it. My old belief was that my work ethic and quality were enough. I saw schmoozers and I just didn't think that that was necessary. And I equated schmoozers and networking together. And I know now that that's a wrong thing. So I was with a large federally focused consulting company. Really made a great name for myself on the teams that I was on. And then they rearranged the deck chairs and I found myself on a different team. And ultimately through the, I'll spare you the gory details, but I found myself unemployed. And so again, I hated networking. I had won the job lottery search once before because I had a very niche background as I transitioned to that federal government consulting company. But I knew that wasn't going to work for me anymore. So I shared that already. I stumbled, I felt pressure, I wasn't at ease. It took me a long time to gain that ease. So I felt more comfortable. And knowing the financial situation that I had to go through, I was unemployed for 5 months. I had to dip into my 401k. It's my personal mission to really help people avoid those type of situations. And as we can see now, I hate to use it as an example, but I think you can be clocking along one day thinking everything's great, and then your world turns upside down and you don't know where you are. So that's why it's always important to continue to be networking. And there's some common beliefs that may keep people from networking. So I'm not going to read all these, but what I'd ask you to do is just take a minute and look at these. And if you see one that's jumping out to you, go ahead and type that number in the chat if you would. I'd appreciate that. So we'll just take a minute as people are looking. Okay, I'm seeing 4s, 5s, and 8s, 6s. Thanks for the interaction. 1, 5s, 3s. I'm seeing a bunch of 4s. Okay, feeling awkward, not good at it. Okay, 5s and 6s. Okay, bunch of 4s, 3s, 1. Okay, great. All right, thanks for that. So the tip here is, and here's a reference for you. It's Chris, and I'm going to butcher his last name. It's spelled Argys, and I may even be butchering the spelling of his last name. But here's what you can Google, is the ladder of inference. And so to summarize it real briefly, our experiences shape our beliefs, and those beliefs shape our actions. And so because I hated networking, I didn't do it. And so that was the action there. So I had to reframe my belief so that I knew that I would get more comfortable at it. So specifically, let's look at number 3. Number 3 applied to me. I reframed that belief to say, if I advocate for myself, and if I am willing to share my work with others, that will show the value that I have, that I can provide an organization, and that'll make networking easier for me. And so by doing that, by making that adjustment, I created new experiences, and those new experiences helped me create new beliefs. So bottom line here is, if there is, you see one, think about what's an action that you can take to help you move forward from there. Great, thank you, Kiba. I appreciate you adding that for me. So the tip there is, you say, if I, and you fill in the blanks, do this, blank will happen. And it's going to take time. It's going to take you a little bit of effort, and it's going to be uncomfortable at first. But if you stick with it, you're going to see some of those new experiences start to happen, and you're going to see that, hey, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. So that's what I'd like to highlight regarding positive beliefs about networking. If you have any questions about that, please go ahead and throw them in the chat. And what I discovered when I was networking, when I first started, I wasn't really clear about my mission, my career strategy, and who I wanted to help. So what I found is that I was having a lot of one and done discussions because I'd meet somebody or I'd go to an event and then the follow-on discussion fell kind of flat. So the key here is to, number one, define your career mission. And I've got a resource that I can drop in the chat afterwards for you as well. If you're wondering about how is it that I define my career mission, I can drop that link in for you shortly here soon. And then once you define that career mission, then it's being selfish in your strategy. And I know that word selfish is a little bit alarming at first, but then be selfless in your personal interactions. And so while I talked about the strategy piece, the personal interactions are be giving. So give first, don't keep score, and then get some really tactical information that will allow you to keep that relationship alive and thrive. So my favorite is to ask people when things are going to happen. So when is that event going to happen? What's something you're excited about? And then after they share, oh, when is that happening? So then, if you look at that second sub-bullet there, I put that into a system so that I'm tracking when those events occur. So for example, one of my colleagues said, yeah, I'm starting a new job. Okay, great, when do you start? Well, I didn't wait for the LinkedIn announcement once they changed their profile. I reached out to them the weekend before they started and I said, hey, I'm thinking about you. I wish you the best as you're starting your new job. So, you know, sure, this person in particular, after they made the update, some 80 people chimed in, hey, congratulations, good job, you know, I'm excited for you. But how many of those 80 people actually reached out to her before and said, hey, I'm thinking of you, have a great week next week, good luck in your new role? So that gave me, I think, a little bit of an edge as from an interpersonal relationship, because clicking, hey, happy birthday on LinkedIn, anybody can do that. So how is it that you're going to, again, stand out, differentiate yourself from others as you're building these relationships and interpersonal skills? And then the key is understanding interests, you know, and connecting them with others. One of the things I hear from people that are just getting started with networking is, I don't have anything to offer. What do I do? What do I offer? Well, you got to start somewhere. And so again, keep track as you're meeting people, discover what they're interested in, learn what they appreciate. And then as you start meeting others, you're going to find that, oh, maybe this person would like to connect with this person. Let me check in with them and see if they would each value that discussion. Now let me make that introduction. And now again, you're elevating yourself within your network, because people will thank you for responding that relation or helping that relationship grow. Okay. Comfort with online and virtual networking. Sometimes those that are introverted feel like, oh, well, I have to be somebody else. Negative. You don't have to be. You can be yourself. In fact, introversion is really helpful, because if we put focus on others and we're asking them questions, people respond really well to that. Okay. Again, kind of just tell your story. You know, Tim shared his story with us. I shared my story. Storytelling is so important as humans. You know, just really practice your story and your career mission statement. And then what you'll see when I drop the link about the career mission statement is it's focused on who you serve, and who you help. So those who feel like, oh, I don't want to be slimy, well, we've got you covered here. By sharing who you help and how you help others and the results they get, you're not saying, oh, well, I'm great because I do this, this, and this. You're saying, here's who I help. Okay, find things in common. So don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try and memorize 16 different questions if you're going to go to an event or a Zoom call. You know, just have 2 or 3. And so that if there is a little bit of that awkward silence, now you can ask somebody something. And it could be anything. In fact, that's my preference, is to keep it light. What are you watching on Netflix? You know, and my personal favorite, what's something you're excited about? I've already alluded to that question, but it's really powerful because people can take that anywhere they want, and you'll see their energy pick up, because not a lot of people ask that question. Okay, start small and follow through. Again, living up to those little mini micro commitments that you make, whether it is an introduction, whether it is sending people some information, because now you're able to build trust with those people. And then overcome the fear of rejection. I've seen this a lot. You know, people will hesitate because they don't want to hear no, or they've been ignored from their requests. Compassion is really helpful here. We don't know why the other person is responding. We can have limiting beliefs that they're actually rejecting us. Well, they're not rejecting you. It could be that they're busy. It could be that maybe somebody, as it relates to now, maybe someone in their family has COVID. Maybe they've lost somebody. Maybe their co-workers are affected. You know, these are really heavy times, you know, helping with their kids' virtual classroom environments. So give people space and put your energy where it's appreciated. So again, we don't know why people don't respond. It's not because of you. It's because of something that's going on with them. So I've just thrown a lot. I'm really looking forward to continuing the discussion. Let's see. I want to, you know, as a good host, I want to make sure Josh and Ian have plenty of time. So I'm going to cut it off here. I'll enter in some comments through the chat. I'll continue monitoring that way. And the one thing I am going to do is, I appreciate everybody sticking around. So I'm dropping the link to the Networking Lab discussion board. And so this is how we can continue the discussion. So I encourage you to join the Networking Lab discussion board. There we can really enrich the discussions. Perhaps there's those that are senior project managers that really want to help and mentor others. Perhaps you're just trying to figure things out and figure out what path is next. Let's all help each other. And so with that, I need to click on the slides. Let's turn it over to Josh. Josh, it's all yours.
Appreciate it, Gus. Thanks for having us all in here. My one plug on networking is I say treat LinkedIn like a bar. Right, there's so many veterans that if they were on base or at the club would walk up to anybody and talk to another veteran, but on LinkedIn they freeze. And Gus, and I shared this with you a while ago, but I had to break out of that as well in my career. A little on my story, I was a Harrier pilot, I went ground logistics, you know, got PM-P funded by my unit, which is why I'm going to talk about funding means and streams for veterans here going forward. But when I left active duty, I had 500 only personal connections of people I knew directly and had only met. And Tim asked me to join his team and try to make PM-ProLearn grow. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. I hate sales and I have no idea what's going on. And I was like, well, let me just start networking with veterans and see if there's people I can help. So I grew my network from 500 to now almost 27,000 people. I sent out about 10 to 12,000 personal messages to people going, look, I'm trying to help veterans in project management. Can I help you? And just kept engaging, you know, but you have various levels of connections. There's some that are personal and great friends. Some are just like the veteran community of people that I want to keep there and listen to them and follow their feeds. And I love the advice and things that pop up on there. It's not meant to be a personal network, but it's always someone you can connect with and rely on. So you get to control who's in your network, but that doesn't mean everyone there has to be your best friend. I've reached out a bunch of times and gotten tons of advice on folks just throwing it right on LinkedIn going, I'm having this problem and I don't know where to turn. Can someone help me? Right. And I'll get a random call from an expert that goes, hey, you know, I was looking for a corporate lawyer in the DC area just to help out with something. And I'm like, I don't know who to talk to. And another veteran writes back and goes, I have a friend at this department, go call him. I already let him know you're calling. And it's like, you know what, that's great. Like, I don't know where to turn, but use the network as a means to grow, just like this event and everything else. Don't feel like you have to always have something to provide either. You can join because you're asking and just looking for friendship and connection. I mean, there's lots of reasons to network. I'd be glad to talk to you later on various levels. You know, Gus, I appreciate you putting this thing on. So moving on to the specific topic here on funding your path forward, right? There are a lot of resources open to the active duty community. One I learned about on active duty was that units can pay for training so long as the training is in line with your current job. right? Project management is military planning on steroids. Therefore, units can pay for things like project management. That was new to me. I got Lean Six Sigma and PMP funded by my unit while active duty because both have applications to military leadership and planning, right? So that is a huge resource. Now, it took me about 7.5 months of beating my head against the wall and seeing the contract office tell me, no, you can't do that, before I finally got in touch with the right people and figured it out. So if you are active and want to learn how to use unit training funds, shoot me an email. My link is on there. I'd love to talk to you and spell it out in like 5 easy steps, whether it's for PMP or anything else. I sent my mechanics to diesel truck driving school using unit training funds, right? So if the civilian training exists, it is not already there for or provided by a military entity, you can use it, right? Onward to Opportunity, great program on there for Anastasia. For civilians out there, a lot of companies have a tuition reimbursement program. The nuances of how to use that usually depend, but I was able to go to my current employer, beyond PM-ProLearn, and get certified in change management because I made a business case to them and said, look, I think change management is valuable for my current job. Will you guys pay for it? And they said, sure, we have a program that funds training. So I made the case and they sent me to a course to get certified. I've talked to a lot of people who kind of have aha moments. There was a veteran working at Amtrak up in Chicago. It was like, hey, I really want to get my PMP, but I don't know how to do it and I can't pay for it. And I said, well, does your company have a reimbursement program? And he goes, I don't know, let me ask. Sure enough, he went to his offer letter and he had $5,000 a year to pay for civilian education so long as it would help him grow. So he had to talk to HR, but he was able to go get funding to attend a professional certification course as long as it met the requirements with HR. Other programs that are out there, Marine Corps and Navy Cool are great programs. They only pay for the exams, right? You can use them for lots of things, but they only pay for licenses and certification exams. They do not pay for the training currently. Air Force Cool was kind of the benchmark until the Army actually won up the Air Force. And as a Marine, I hate saying anybody's better than the Marine Corps, but when it comes to taking care of their people, Air Force had it right for the last few years. All enlisted can use funds up to $4,500 over their career to pay for professional development. Certain certifications have certain rank requirements. So for PMP, it was E7 and above. But for E6s, they could apply for CAPM. And through our program, most of them applied for PMP and passed the experience requirement, but they have to pay the difference in the exam fee out of pocket, right? It's limited by rank for Air Force Cool. Now, Army CA came out as of 1 January this year. This is probably the biggest and strongest program going on. Every soldier, active, guard, and reserve can use their tuition assistance money now to pay for licensings and certifications. So everyone has up to $4,000 a year to spend on professional development beyond formal education and degree programs. It is still kind of cumbersome. The leadership there is working it out. It's about to become a program called Army Ignited that we are pioneering with them, and we're kind of in the initial discussions. But again, every soldier now has access to tuition assistance to pay for licensing and certifications. And last thing on there, again, unit training funds, which I mentioned in detail. I would love to help anyone who has questions about any of these processes, connect with me, right? So I did hear one note, Air Force School paid for a course and exam as an E6. Certain AFSCs in the Air Force, yes, can do PMP at the E6 level. Universally, it's E7 and above. So that is correct, but it is not universal. So I just want to be hesitant on saying, hey, it's all E6 and above. In our experience as a company, E6 and above across every service will qualify for PMP by experience, whether you have a degree or not, but certain programs only funded at certain levels. So again, if people have questions, especially the active duty folks, on using the benefits that are there, let me know. GI Bill, I've had a lot of experience and questions asked about GI Bill. There are certain providers that can try to get GI Bill funded for training, but they have to be tied to a degree program and showing that their training is producing college credits. So that's kind of a big stick on GI Bill funding. We've been trying to bridge the gap by partnering with universities, W University specifically, to get our training to produce degree credits, but that hasn't happened yet. So GI Bill can pay for the exams again, but it is really hard to get them to pay for training and credentials unless it produces degree credit. There are a lot of schools out there that have master's certificates in project management, or other types of certifications or certificates that do align to a degree program, they're not the same. They're not the same thing at all. And I've had a few veterans go through that and go, that didn't help me. It just taught me Leadership 101. And they spent a lot of money on their GI Bill to go get a master's cert in project management. So again, if you have questions, reach out. The team is here. Again, I've seen a few people mention O2O and Onwards Opportunity. That is a great program that is out there. If you go through their program, use our free training program as a backup to O2O. And, you know, I went through the IVMF Vet 390 program. Ian did as well. So I'd be glad to talk to you about it and some of the gaps that are there. After going through the IVMF program is when I talked to my colonel and then paid for an on-site boot camp that helped train me a lot more. But any questions initially? And I've been talking fast because I want to maximize time. But
Josh, there's one in the chat for you. I want to pull it out there. It's from Michael for you. It says, with the exception of the post 9/11 GI Bill, any veteran resources for funding? You kind of already talked about O2O, but do you got anything else?
Voc Rehab is one for veterans through the VA. There's a VA tech licensing program as well as a benefit that can be used for specific training and courses lined up with IT that actually another fellow veteran told me about today. So I will try to find the link to that and drop it in there. But those are VA training programs. Again, Voc Rehab is one. I'm not sure of all the limitations on Voc Rehab, but I know it can be used for certifications and professional development, especially as you're looking to bridge or cross career gaps where you're like, hey, I don't have experience in this, but I really want to get a foothold into that industry. I know Voc Rehab is a resource. VA is difficult and cumbersome with red tape depending on the state you're in. I've had a lot of people try various methods, some successful, some not. But I'd love to learn from you if you have more expertise in any of those. But O2O is probably one of the best. And then skipping the formal training part, but the DoD SkillBridge program is a great resource out there. If you are active duty in transition, you get up to 180 days to become an intern at a company. They have to give you an interview. They don't have to hire you, but that's a great way to change industries and gain industry exposure and experience within a company, where your DoD pays your salary, but the company gives you training and exposure in a new industry. So if you have questions on that one, I'd love to plan or talk to you about that as well.
Josh, can I throw in real quick? There are some organizations out there, nonprofits that, you know, without trying to go through listing, but there are nonprofits out there that do help veterans towards certifications and job training, like C3. Is that what it's called there in Maryland that we've worked with before? I can't remember what C3 stands for.
I can't remember it either, but it is a nonprofit in Maryland that helps fund certification training for veterans in transition or as they're out. There are various nonprofits in different states, but a lot of those, again, just like some of the resources and people that can get training, GI Bill is kind of state to state specific, credentialing and getting credits is state to state specific. So you might be able to look up, you know, veteran resources for training as an opportunity.
I did just, I pulled the link. So C3 stands for Military Career Corps Connect, or Military Corps Career Connect. There it is.
Corps Career, yeah. So there's probably and I think they just do Maryland, but and we've done several classes with them where they funded veterans, and there's organizations in other states and maybe nationally that do that. So that's definitely something that you could look into. And organizations like ours, you know, routinely discount. I mean, we give you the exact same training for 40% off our regular training fees, you know, as our company's way of trying to make it as affordable as possible for military veterans.
Yep, and I will throw one shameless plug on our end. It's called the Ambassador Program with ProLearn, where we've routinely met with either senior leaders that are about to get out that say, I can't justify using training funds, or I don't want to, or spouses or people in other areas that really want to get training and they know people and want to get it set up and do another funding themselves. So what we've done is, if we can get and work with somebody in an area to help spread the word and kind of partner with us, then we give a year of free training as a thank you for helping us to get a class going. So we've set up courses all around the world for folks, and usually it's one person there that says, you know, I really want my PMP. I'm going to go tell people about it and see who else is interested, and they kind of become the lead for us in setting up training. And as a thank you for doing that, we give them a year of free access to our training program. So again, we like to work with people. I've always told people I never want anyone to pay out of pocket for what we do. I want to find means and ways to get it funded for you. So I'd love to talk with you if you have questions and try to help in any way I can.
All right, so that's all the questions that came in for you, Josh.
Okay. You're up next, Ian.
Okay, so Gus, if you could pop it to the next slide. I'm going to try and be brief because we got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to leave time for any open Q&A or comments or anything that needs to be done for the group. But I had the reason I'm taking this part is I had a different pathway to PMP than a lot of people did. I should have reached out to use all these resources that Josh is talking about and Tim is talking about prior to my departure from the Marine Corps. After 20 years, I was leaving with a whole lot of soft skills and a whole lot of tangible assets to create hard skills, but I didn't have everything I needed. And one of the things that I did while I was at the transition seminar, the retirement seminar lead hung up a flyer for the O2O program, or the Veterans Career Transition Program, it was called at the time. And I went through their program. It's a phenomenal program. It's amazing the things that they're doing. But for me, it was not a good learning experience, just because that's not how I learn. So I was getting the knowledge, but I wasn't able to connect it all together. And that's really where O2O kind of failed me. So what I ended up doing was I stepped in and I started looking at other training providers, and there are a slew of them out there for PMP. If you go to SHRM or any of the HR certifications, they're all the same way. Everybody's got, if there's a certification out there, there's a ton of people trying to train and help people to certify. But what you need to do is figure out what's best for you. So that's really what this slide is all about. Is you want to take a look at the price, right? Just because it's the cheapest doesn't mean it's the best, but just because it's the cheapest also doesn't mean it's not the best, right? So what you need to look at is what are you getting for your money, and are there any available discounts out there for you? The probably the most important part, and something that Josh talked about, is it actually going to prepare you for your goal, right? If your goal is to get a job in project management, go to those job listings on LinkedIn or Monster or Indeed or anywhere else and look and see what they're asking for. Most of them will not say looking for a master's in project management. Most of them will say looking for PMP, or they'll say looking for ACP, or looking for a specific certification. So if that's the goal and that's the job and that's the industry and that's similar across multiple different jobs, that's the certification you need to go for. You need to make sure that what you're getting actually gets you to your goal. What's the training medium is very important, right? Some programs that are self-paced are literally voice over PowerPoint, and that's it. If you don't have the ability to reach back to an instructor, if you don't have the ability to find ways to clarify topics, additional study tools to help different types of learners, you need to take a look and say, is this going to be right for me? Who are the instructors? There are training providers out there that will hire people to train the Friday before the class is starting that have never trained before. And so it's important to even reach out to the company and say who's going to be conducting the training and what's their experience, so on and so forth, right? If they can't answer those questions, they're not the company that you want to go with. All right, the next one is there a practice test? If your certification requires a test, you need to make sure that there's a chance for you to practice. If there is a practice test, is it a premium thing or is it included in the price, right? You want to make sure that you don't get the package that's the lowest price and then not get everything that you need to best prepare you for that certification attempt. Post-course study systems, the same thing. Do they have an online learning management system or some type of medium for you to be able to learn additionally? Because sitting just in a classroom for 2, 3, 5 days is not necessarily going to be enough for everybody, especially for those of you that are trying to translate your military experience into the civilian world, because you're going to have to learn a whole new language, right? You know how to do all the work, but you need to know how to put it into the terms that can be used inside of the field. You need to be on a level playing field with your counterparts when you're stepping into those interviews and into the actual job. If there's an application process, do they have a process to help you if that application needs assistance or if you get audited? That's important stuff. And then finally, what accessories do you get with the program, right? Josh got to do a shameless plug. I'm going to throw another shameless plug out there. In the last couple of weeks, we actually launched something that you're going to see on a future slide called the PM Pro Community. And that's a perk that comes for anybody, whether you take our training or not. you're able to get in there and use that. But what it is it's a huge resource with blog articles, events for connecting, different resources to help you, whether you're trying to get a certification, whether you're trying to stay current, and it's all circled around project management. It's not just PMP, it's any type of project management. So those types of things, those additional community aspects, or those additional, little kickers that you can get to go along with what you're paying for, because this is your career, right? And as you're looking and comparing the different prices of the different places, it's not just which one's the cheapest, which one's the most expensive, throw those out. What you're looking for is, what value do I get from my money? So if you're only getting training and it's just as much as somebody else is giving you training plus a bunch of kickers, or somebody else who's giving you training, kickers, and the certification fee, all of those things need to be considered when you make your final decision. All right, I talked pretty quickly, and I think I was pretty straightforward, and I didn't see any questions. I did see a couple of comments. Do you guys have anything for me before we move on through? Sweet, I didn't think so. Okay, so go ahead, Gus. Thanks, David. So Tim, do you want to take this, or do you want me to do it?
No, sure. So we've always been giving 40% military discounts for project manager training at PM-ProLearn. So that's nothing new, but what is new there is that we're running that discount as a membership benefit to our new PM Pro community, because we're not just about training you, we're about helping you develop. And so we've created this community that we really want to draw you into and get you involved in to develop you in your career in project management. So we encourage you to join the PM Pro community, and that's where we're going to funnel our discounts through. So it's free to join, but we want to get you involved because it's very, very beneficial for you. Networking, as Gus was saying, that's what the whole website is really about. So 40% discount for military veterans. Right now, we're running 35% discounts for non-veterans. That's going to go back to 25% after COVID goes away. So we started giving a 35% civilian discount when COVID-19 caused everybody to go through financial hardship and the stay-at-home order stuff. So that was our way of helping out. Let's give as much of a discount as we can. So that 35% is there, but it's going to end up being 25% after COVID is over. But anybody that joins our PM Pro community is going to get access to that. So if you want to take your PMP training, your PMI ACP training, we've got fundamentals training in project management and agile methods. We've got several different things in there, but you get those discounts off of everything once you join the community. Now, another benefit of joining the PM Pro community is gaining access to our growing network of volunteer mentors. And we call them PM Pro mentors, as you see at the bottom. And these are individuals who've got their PMP, some have their ACP, and they're there to help you get your application ready to go. Because PMP application is a challenge for a lot of people, right? So they're there to help you do your application, help put together a study group, and answer your questions about PMP or ACP. They're also there to give you a sounding board for a career advice. Look over your resume. These are people that have been there, done that, and they're wanting to give back. Now, they get a lot of benefit out of that. It's personally very satisfying to help people achieve their goals. And they also get to claim all of the things that they help people with as a professional development time that goes toward maintaining their project management professional certification. So if you're currently a PMP and you want to get involved helping people, you can volunteer with us to be a PM Pro mentor. We give you a little training, show you how we do things, and set you up as a mentor, and you can start helping people and gaining PDUs to function as a mentor. Right. So I got a lot of great things going on there, a lot of great things planned and coming. The PM Pro community is only 2 weeks old. I don't know how many members we have now, but I think we're probably around 100 or so at this point, and growing. And we hope that, a couple of years from now, it's just going to be thousands of people in the field of project management around the world, networking, sharing resources, sharing lessons learned, and helping each other navigate to success in their project manager careers and help their organizations do better at managing successful projects. Totally free. We invite you to come get involved and engage with us. And you can actually interact with me, Josh, and Ian there individually and ask us, questions, and we'll answer it as part of our blog, maybe a video, maybe a podcast, to help others learn from maybe something you're currently being challenged with. So we invite you to come join with us. Really appreciate you doing that. Anything to add, Josh? For Ian?
No, I mean, just it's been great being here. I know we're starting to run low on time, but the point of the community, unlike others, is we wanted to remove the stovepipe of silo and project management, right? There's IT, which people think is agile. You have Prince2, you have CompTIA, you have ITIL, you have Scrum and SAFe and all these different methodologies that people swear by, but no one's really bridging the gap across all the different industries, right? So we wanted to create a place where people can go that maybe don't have a silo and don't fit one problem. Why we love PMP is it's a direct parallel to the military planning process, and I'd love to go into why that is. But we also like Agile because the staffing process we're learning is much more agile, and it's unscoped and it's iterative. So, we're trying to apply what we've learned on the civilian side to help the military grow and bridge the gap between the military leadership side and civilian organizations. So we wanted to build a community that knocked down all those walls where anyone asking questions at any level of a career can come and get help and connect and network, like Gus is talking about, specifically inside the field of project management, because we all love what we get to do.
One quick thing, and it goes along with answering Dan's questionized comment. He put in there, might want to talk about how you support somebody when they fail the exam the first time around. So that's something that is another key aspect that I didn't cover in my slide, but it's something that we are pretty passionate about, right? You don't show up to give us money and have us turn around and walk away. It's a partnership, right? And you should find a training company that is exactly like that, right? That they want to help you get to your end goal, not find ways to squeeze the rock and see how much blood money can pop out, right? So one of the things that we do is we take a look at your results from your exam and we review those in detail. If you've used our system, we'll go through and we'll basically pull apart your practice test and give you ideas of areas of to work on or things that you've had problems with consistently to help fix you. And then also we assign you a mentor. Previously it was us, and now it is going to be moving over to those volunteer pro mentors because that's something that they're all passionate about. So it's super important that you find somebody who's willing to take you the distance, right? Not just go, well, that sucks. You have 30 more days or we're not helping you again, right? That's not the training provider that you want to work with. That's not somebody who's interested in you. That's somebody who's interested in your money. So, and then real quick, Folu, I probably just murdered your name, but Folu, you can join the PM Pro community by going to this link, and Gus, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us down.
Okay. Well, I can't express my gratitude enough for Tim, Josh, Ian. The value you guys have provided here is absolutely phenomenal. I hope the audience and the participants got as much out of it as I did. It was just a delight to hear your all perspectives and share what you did. I'm just grateful again for the opportunity to collaborate with you. This has been fantastic, and in fact, you caught me just as I was typing in a chat. So, seeing some real-time networking and seeing some discussions happen throughout this discussion as well has just gotten my energy level pumped up. So thank you all. This is just the start. So if you have questions, comments, again, I've dropped the chat. I've got your email addresses. I'm going to have a networking focused webinar here in a couple of weeks. I'll invite everybody to that. I'm seeing some comments. Anastasia, thank you. This has been great. Great webinar. Great. Thanks for the feedback, everyone. Really, really appreciate it. I think continuing on, I've already dropped a link for that. And here's my contact. And again, we'll stay in touch. So thank you, everybody, and have a fantastic night.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.